Welcome back everybody to Extreme Off-Road Silly Bills, and today we're dealing with the 1990 Aston Martin Lagonda. Now this has 1,127 horsepower, 996 pounds-feet of torque from an 8.5 litre twin-turbocharged V10 engine, nicked from a Dodge Viper, and the car itself now weighs 3,852 pounds, has off-road tyres, all-wheel drive and off-road suspension to help it along on this course, and it can now do 0 to 60 in 2.687 seconds, 0 to 100 in 5.317 seconds, and going to a top speed of 236 miles an hour. So the fastest Aston Martin that we've had on this series is also the fastest car that we've had on this series, with the Valkyrie AMR Pro, with a spectacular time of 3 minutes 7.648 seconds. It's got more than a second lead over second place, so yeah, that is fairly impressive. Not expecting this to join that car up there, but it will be interesting to see what this car can do regardless, especially since it's still quite a heavy saloon, but it's also not a heavy SUV, so yeah, whether or not the weight on this is going to make any difference, but the fact it's quite low still, and yeah, doesn't have a high centre of gravity might play in its favour. But yeah, in terms of stats, off-road capability, braking, launch, acceleration and speed are all excellent. The only issue is the handling, which, given how heavy it is and the fact it was never meant for all-wheel drive, is probably playing into that. It's also obviously got a much heavier engine up front, and yeah, way more power than it was ever dealing with originally. It had less than 300 horsepower in standard form, so we're asking quite a lot from this car, quite a lot. So yeah, see what it can do. Certainly got plenty of acceleration. The stats did not lie. For now, the handling is not from any immediate concerns. I'm sure it can surprise me in any kind of way at some point in the future. Brakes are fairly decent for a car of this weight and age. Fairly decent speed there, which is definitely going to be helpful. The one benefit to having a good deal of weight on your side is that you're unlikely to be thrown around all that much. Plus, any road furniture is easier to deal with, it slows you down a lot less. So even though this weight can be a disadvantage in terms of initial acceleration out of corners, that's only the really bad benefit when, as long as your brakes are good and your general handling is able to make up for that excess weight. It's when you're in a car that has poor brakes, poor handling, that excess weight ends up piling on top of those already bad flaws that the car has. So yeah, but because the brakes are good, because the handling is manageable, that excess weight is not having as much of an impact as it would on the negative side of things, thankfully. To be honest, it's quite truckable for a car of this size and weight. Far more nimble than I would have ever expected it to be, especially considering how lacking in agility the car is in stock form. There, that's about the average for cars in this series. It's got much better turning than I was anticipating given the all-wheel drive system. quicker than the fastest Aston Martin. That was a fairly given idea, to be honest. But still, that's fairly reasonable at 3 minutes 21.718 seconds. But yeah, it's not just not as quick as the fastest car in this series, but it's also not as quick as the Mitsubishi GTO GPP version R that we had in the previous episode. We're more than 6 seconds slower than that, which is quite a shocking increase in time. But in terms of other Aston Martins, well, we are quicker than the likes of the Valhalla concept car, the DBX, which is an SUV from Aston Martin, so quicker than that. But we are slower than the rest of the Aston Martins on this series, the 177, the DBR1, and the Valkyrie ML Pro, which is still at the top of the leaderboard. But still, 3 minutes 21.718 means we're also slightly quicker than a Renault Clio RS, a Saloon Sport Truck XR Black Label, other off-road vehicles like the Lancia Delta HF Integrale Evo, the GMC Cyclone and Typhoon, the Jimco Hammerhead Class 1, and a Mercedes-Benz G63 AMG 6x6, but we are slightly slower than cars that you might well not anticipate to be quicker, like a Volkswagen double cab pickup, a Ford Fiesta ST, an Audi RS7 Sportback, and a Hyundai i30N. So yeah, quicker than some series competition, but also a lot slower than pretty much every other Aston Martin here. There's only one, the DBX, and the Valhalla. So yeah, we're not the quickest Aston Martin by any means, but we're not the slowest either, which is always a good thing, and considering it's one of the oldest Aston Martins that we've had on this series, it's also done fairly well. So yeah, not spectacular, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse given all of the weight it's got on the side and the all-wheel drive system not being native to the car, and yeah, obviously all of that extra power and torque that it's got as well. So yeah, on the whole, a fairly impressive car given all of its flaws going against it. Nonetheless though, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.